Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast, and I want to talk about the evolution of DC Comics, or the de-evolution of DC Comics, however you want to look at it. And ultimately, I had thought about this before, but it's about selling comics, the number of comic sales. I hope this will make sense here in a bit. So we're going to talk about the layoffs at DC and how Marvel is participating in that, possibly. First, Downcast Rise and Falls on Indiegogo right now. We've got Volume 1, Volume 2s. We also have original art pages. So check that out. And also Fatal. We just had a nice big bump in our dollar amount here. And so we're climbing towards $87,000. And really the goal here is to hit that 90K mark. That is a big deal. So help us reach that. And it'll, I don't know, make for a great book. All right. DC Comics Bloodbath Part 2. We heard about layoffs that happened earlier this year, and a lot of it sort of centered around COVID. Then things seemed to be getting better. Like everything was just fine. The truth is, they did get money, probably. They possibly tapped into money from the government. I haven't seen specifically that DC did. I can't remember what was it, the CARES Act or something. I didn't specifically see if DC tapped into that or not, but that was a thing that was going around. So it would make sense that they might. Okay. Things seem to be getting better. Stores were opening. Books were being sold. The conversation started to move away from books being canceled, and it started to move toward the actual books themselves, the content of those books. And that ultimately is what's best for comics. If you have people excited in your books, then I mean, that's great. That's what the news should be about. But now the other shoe is dropping. We're finding out that DC Comics is laying off a whole bunch more people. We've got Adam Phillips. I don't really actually know any of these people. Stuart Streck, Fletcher Chu Fong, Sandy Yee, Lisset, I'm going to say that name wrong, Michelle Wells, Alex Carr, and I can tell you for sure that there are more. There are writers and there are artists at DC that have been working there that have also been quietly laid off. You will hear about those names soon. I guarantee it. There will be more. So beyond this, DC's plans are to publish fewer books. Now, I have been an advocate for this, primarily for Marvel's reasons. For Marvel, because they are the worst offenders at flooding the shelves. I've just moved over here to a different article from Bleeding Cool. This is Marvel Comics getting a DC tsunami in the new year. And what they mean by that is now you have all these displaced comic book creators, editors, and so forth that still want to work in comics. So Bleeding Cool's take here is that they're going to go over and start working for Marvel and live happily ever after. They're going to sell more books there or something. And you're also going to have people moving to crowdfunding, moving to Image and other creator-owned properties. You're going to see some of that for sure. I think you're also going to see people that are just going to go learn to code or anything. They're going to do anything. Why? Because, like, why do this? they've been they've got a sour taste in their mouth over comics. Okay. So that's possible. By the way, they used this. This is Billy Tucci. I was thinking, man, that's kind of cool artwork. How it's I don't know what you would call it. It's just cool. It's kind of an interesting style. And then I looked down here and it's done by Billy Tucci. That's great. Anyway, I digress. So ultimately, I scroll down here, and here we go. Let me read this sentence for you. After all, if DC Comics wants to sell fewer comic books in 2021, it appears that all other publishers, including Marvel, are going to do their very best to help them in that endeavor. Super snarky way to say it. But if the goal is really just to sell number of comics, then variant covers, I guess, is the right route to go. I guess that Marvel is doing everything right then to just flood the shelves, because after all, the goal is just to sell number of comics. Uh, I had been had been happy with the way that DC had been sort of going against that grain and against that shift. And I still think that DC's making the right decisions to slim things down, because slimming down the line means you got to slim down your staff, but it's going to make for some really bad headlines and that you're laying people off. Meanwhile, Marvel is going to, and behind the scenes, Marvel doesn't pay as well as DC, or the way that they do it is sort of a tricky way. This is what I have heard. I have heard that Marvel will tell you, "Hey, we're going to sign you as a writer or an artist. We're going to pay you all in one big fat lump sum. So here you go. Here's a whole bunch of money piled on your lap." And it seems like a lot of money, but when that's your paycheck for the whole year, it ends up being still less than what DC was paying. So Marvel is happy to be there and pay less. I, I guess they're happy to do that. Uh, but is that really where we want the comics industry to be? So if a creator has a little bit more self-respect, they're going to go and do their own create their own stuff. If they have a little bit more confidence in themselves, that's what they're going to do. They're probably going to try out Image and see how that works. Uh, Image will take their fee, and the weight will be on your shoulders to sell the book. You still have to sell the book. Image is only going to bring in so much, and you're not working on characters that everyone knows and loves anymore. And this is what you've been used to doing, and it comes down to selling number of comics. How many books can you sell? Anyway, so I'm really curious to see how this all unfolds. I'm interested to see. Let me know what you think. Is DC Comics making the right move? The only move? Does it even matter anymore? And if you haven't backed Fatal yet, check it out. It's in the link in the description below, and help us to hit that 90K stretch goal. Really, I think we can get this to $100,000, which is a big deal. It's a big deal coming from a couple guys that have not ever worked for the mainstream comics industry. So that would it would really make a statement. So appreciate everybody helping us and supporting us. Really appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.